Hello out there. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. It's my favorite day. I'm so glad you can join me. I am doing great today. It's my favorite day. It's time for the fails. I do realize, and I do know this, that maybe these two couldn't be classed as fundamentalists, at least in a traditional sense. Maybe I think that they qualify though because they're both of them egos, their egos seem to be so huge that they don't think they can be wrong. So, if you're unaware, fundamentalists are generally characterized by their subscription to something inerrant. So, the subscription to something that cannot possibly be wrong. There is no way for it to be wrong. It is set in stone, and that's sort of where fundamentalism comes from. So, a fundamentalist Muslim may believe in the inerrancy of the Quran, and a fundamentalist Christian would believe in the inerrancy of the Bible. It cannot be wrong. And I think through sheer ego, these two have actually managed to achieve that. Whereas most of us would say, hey, I'm certain about this, but I could be wrong if shown other evidence. And that is really a hallmark of skepticism. It is really saying, hey, I have these things that I know to be true, but I am open, I keep in my mind that I could be wrong if I'm presented with other evidence. Unfortunately, there is a whole bunch of people out there who think that being certain is somehow set in stone, that if they're just sure enough, they can never be wrong. And I really want to push back on this idea, especially after my latest debate and talking with the pre-supper Alex, who thinks that there's no possible way he can be wrong. And this is a sort of pre-sup thing. But I did toss and turn over whether to do this one because I really I wouldn't say despise, but I find Russell Brand's behavior to be pretty deplorable. To be pretty deplorable. Terrence Howard isn't much better. He's kind of a bit. I think that Brand is far more intelligent and far more calculating. While I think that Terrence Howard is a bit of a loony, to be honest with you. Now, I just got the first part of this interview, like it was just on YouTube. I had some real problems getting it off of. I think it was originally on Rumble, where all reputable videos go. That is a joke. Don't at me. That is a joke. Um, so this was an interview between the two that, I mean, it just went off the rails. But I do want to talk about Brand first off, because Russell Brand is one of those contentious people that I think is, as you'll go through, you'll see he kind of is very loud and forceful in what he's saying. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that he has had a really horrible things that he has done, and it is pretty awful, some of the stuff that he's done. However, um I I think that some of the things that he has said and that he supports, I would agree with, as much as it sort of is you know I don't like being associated with him because of his behavior. Some of the things I would agree with. He's sort of talked about how laws don't help drug addicts. They don't do anything to help them, and I agree with that. He's sort of sort of spoke out about in the past about supporting Chelsea Manning, for instance, which I am very, very I am very I'm very supportive of Chelsea Manning. I think that she is one person that is absolutely been you know absolutely been um treated really unfairly. and really horribly. I think she's a hero actually for pointing out a actual war crime and blowing the whistle on it. So I don't necessarily disagree with the man, but you've got to understand that he did a massive pivot, and he was described. I think the best description of the man I've ever heard is someone called him a pound store, so like a dollar store Ben Elton, right? And I absolutely agree. Now, Ben Elton is a political commentator that hasn't had his kind of problems and is very, very intelligent, very astute. He wrote a number of books, very into environmentalism, very into all of these treatment of humans as with dignity. He kind of Ben Elton is an amazing guy that I've read like a lot of his books. I believe the first one I read was Stark, followed by this other Eden. Very, very good, very good. Um, and he's sort of this. Russell Brand is sort of not as um, not as progressive as him, but the problem is with Brand that not only, I mean, he acknowledges that he had a drug issue, which is good. You know, people should acknowledge that and do it. The problem is his sexual misconduct. Okay, so I'll just grab this thing. It's sort of a rundown of it. In 2006, Danny Minogue, who is, you know, you may not know who she is because you're not Australian, but she is Kylie Minogue's sister, and she's done a lot of acting. She did have a brief singing career, but she's mostly known for her acting. Um, she sort of said that he harassed her after a TV show, and sort of Russell Brand has said, "Oh, I've had sex addiction, but I've cured it." There's a lot of complaints saying that he has not cured his sex addiction. He is still sort of just as bad. Um, so he also offered his sister to a guy called Jimmy Savile. Now, Jimmy Savile ran a show in England called Jim'll Fix It, and he was a bit of a philanthropist. He gave a lot of money to charities and things like that. Um, he also, after his death, they found out he was an absolute monster, and he sort of said, "Oh, I'll bring my secretary along. She can give you a massage," sort of offering up his secretary, which I don't, why you would do that. From 2006 to 2008, he received 5 complaints while he was a BBC radio host. So a presenter of both sexual misconduct and unprofessional work behavior. In 2014, Jordan Martin, a former girlfriend, said he had committed sexual assault and physical emotional abuse. She accused Brand of assaulting her in the Lowry Hotel when he became angry after discovering she had spoke to an ex-boyfriend. While filming a program, Catherine Ryan made remarks to Brand indicating he was a sexual predator that were not broadcast. Yeah, so you know, this person, I believe very strongly, so do a lot of people believe very strongly, it is an open secret, is a perpetrator of sexual assault. It is a litigious minefield, which, yeah. So there was also a Sunday Times, Channel 4 had an instigation of sexual assaults. The allegations were that while Brand was 31, he basically, a 16-year-old accused him of sexual assault and grooming her, which is just disgusting. Four women came out. A fifth woman accused him of flashing his genitals at them, and he sort of come back and sort of said all of this was conspiracy kind of thing. All of this was just a way to destroy him. And this was 2003, and he's sort of trying to sort of say fake news, which I don't, just the long list of people that have complained about this guy is incredible. Yeah. Look, I don't doubt that the guy has had, um, problems, like, I totally get he's had ADHD. I sympathize with that. I do as well. He the problem is that, what happened was that in sort of 2020, he got into the conspiracy realm, mostly around the pandemic, the COVID thing. And what he did is he basically made up all of these conspiracies about it and said, "Oh, we're not free. We're being locked up. We're being this. We're being that." And it's like he basically went over to the right wing. He basically courted and went over to the sort of right wing, scandal that woke. Now, I don't think it was a coincidence that he gets into trouble and then, basically runs over to the right wing. And I want to point out, and this is the thing that I really want to point out, we've got a history of people doing this. Like they get into trouble and then suddenly they're sort of a change of ideology, the woke are terrible people kind of thing. And it's kind of this, well, I've gotten into trouble for all of these horrible things I've done. The left is holding me accountable. I want to go over to the right because they're not going to hold me accountable. And that's what I think is happening. And that's just a personal opinion, but that's what I think is happening. Um, the Russell Brand, it's a very complex topic because he's pushed for some really good things, really good things. And he's gotten into trouble because his personal, let's call them demons, his failings, his the dark side of him has caused him to, or not caused him, he's chosen to do these horrible things to people. And then when he's held accountable, he runs right and goes, well, they're just, making it all up. It's all a conspiracy. It's all a thing. I do want to point out that, people have done the same. Like it sort of reminds me of the American mayor of New York. What was his name? Something Adams. I can't remember. Eric Adams, I think it was, who sort of, got into trouble with corruption scandals, and then, he's over on the right, sort of, courting Trump and speaking all of these right wing talking points and telling everybody. So part of it is that, um, you know, they will talk about the left like, oh, they're these crazy people that have these crazy views. It seems to go hand in hand with trying to discredit all of the people that have accused them. And you should see the list on this man is incredible because, I'm only scratching the surface here. It is incredible how many allegations, and at a certain point, you have to sort of say, hey, this isn't just, you know, oh, crazy left women, making it up kind of thing. No, this is credible and, workplace allegations. And he's sort of, admitted before he's addicted to sex. But, you can be addicted to sex. It doesn't mean you have to sexually assault people. It doesn't mean that you have to, in a professional workplace, be incredibly unprofessional. Um, but he basically went over to the right, said, oh, the left is just crazy. Yeah, because they're actually holding you accountable. And, so that's part of it, discrediting it. But I think the reason why this is happening, and even someone like Trump, right? He was a supporter of the Clintons. He was ostensibly a Democrat funder. He was all these things. And, it's kind of like he just goes over to the right, and the left aren't willing to put up with his crap, right? Like they're basically like, you're a horrible person. And don't get me wrong, they'll take his money, which I'm not sure that's right either. But they're not going to put him forward as an electoral candidate. They're going to really criticize and come down hard on him because he is a horrible person. However, when they go to the right, they don't seem to care, right? They don't seem to care. They don't care that they've done these things. They don't care that they'll do them in the future. they just they just want to um, they just want to have their power or support or somebody to discredit the other side and say, "Hey, I was part of that crazy thing. They have no idea what they're doing. They accused me of all these things. How crazy are they?" When that's in fact a real credible accusation. So I want to make this clear. Um, and I'm not saying, hey, we should not care about what they do as well. No, we should. We should have that integrity that they seem to lack. They're willing to overlook anything in as long as they have the power or the influence from these people. They can have them as far as I'm concerned, but it does worry me a bit. It really does, because I mean Russell Brand's got millions of followers on YouTube. I don't know how many on Rumble, and for some reason he's being hoisted by the right as this this paragon of manlyhood for some reason. And I don't think they particularly like him that much. I think they're going to throw him under the bus as soon as convenient. But the other thing that I want to mention is he also found God about this time, right? So he also went the Christian route. And I am cynical of that. Now, I know that he was a Buddhist and he's into this spirituality stuff, which quite frankly is very loosey goosey. It's not very well defined, sort of Buddhist spirituality um, slash, woo kind of, just hippie kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's not necessarily anything bad with that. I've got a soft spot for hippies, like real hippies, not sexual predator hippies. But I've got a soft spot for them because they generally stand up for the right side of things. They protested Vietnam. They sort of stopped the shaming of women and sexuality. I kind of have a soft spot, but this guy is not that. He's not that. He is he really is um, just a personality that has some real flaws that instead of actually confronting and stepping up and saying, hey, I've done all these things wrong, I've got to do better, he runs to the right and gets a free pass and says, oh, I used to be a sect addict, even though there's more allegations flooding in. He doesn't want to confront his problems. Left-handed Jedi for $2 where there is smoke. Listen to the victims. Absolutely listen to the victims. Yes, absolutely. I think they should all be taken seriously. I think that um, the adage where there's smoke, there's fire. It's not always true, but the whole idea of, there's just all these false allegations. No, there's not all these false allegations. Occasionally it does happen, right? Like, we've got to be mindful of that we have a system of justice to try to weed out real allegations from false ones, but always listen to those, always pay attention to them, and that happens in other things, like who was it? Jesse Smollett. I can't remember his name. The guy who set up for people to rob him as a hate crime to get attention and the right in trouble. He basically orchestrated this thing. Look, nobody's saying, hey, victims of assault, let's not believe them, but they are with sexual assault. And I don't understand why. It's just, occasionally you will get a false accusation, but it's occasionally, and we can find that out. We should take it seriously, because how many false accusations have there been, and tons of real ones, and tons of ones that were like, oh, well, let's not, this could be a false accusation, so let's not investigate. What? There's been so few of them. But it's sort of like people like this will sort of go, oh, there's a false accusation out there. Well, mine is too. No, that's not how we treat crime. No, that's not how we treat somebody who is reporting a crime. I don't understand why they are doing it. I really do not. It's wild to me. It's wild to me. Mm. But I'm glad for you all to join me. I will get ye old video up. And so this is I suppose I'm going on about Russell Brand so much. I don't know if I can make this a bit uh, better. Um, can I? Yeah, all right. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going on Russell Brand because Terrence Howard. I don't think he's really. So Terrence Howard is just he was an actor. His career kind of flagged a little, and he seems to have lost the plot. Like he really has lost the plot. I don't. I don't think he is on the level of terribleness that um that Brand is. Brand is horrible. To me, Howard's just a guy who um um he um he's kind of just a pseudo scientific. To be honest with you, I think he's a crazy person. That's my opinion. He's a crazy person. He really thinks that he went to a university, even though he never went to a university. He thinks he's he did a doctorate in engineering, and he never did a doctorate in engineering. He's really just he really just is awful. Really just awful. But not on the level that Russell Brand is. Russell Brand is a terrible, terrible guy. And I want to make that clear, which is a shame because has stood up for good causes in the past, environmentalism, and things like that. He's definitely stood up for decent causes. It just, you know, got into trouble because of his, is he? I don't know about that. I don't think I can speak on that. Um, I don't think I can speak on that. Um, give me a sec. He was arrested in 2001 for a variety of charges related to a violent attack on his estranged first wife. Okay, I did not know this. According to police reports, he arrived at a house after an argument on the phone. Yeah, okay, so he is a wife. Okay, so he's a piece of crap as well. All right. He was also arrested in 2000 for assaulting a Continental Airlines flight attendant. Who assaults a flight attendant after refusing her request to return to his seat because the seatbelt sign was on? What the hell? He was charged with assault and jailed overnight. 2011, a judge granted Howard's then wife, Michael Gent, stalked her by telephone. Yeah, absolutely awful. Gent obtained a second restraining order, showing up in court with a black eye. In Rolling Stone, Howard admitted to hitting his first wife in 2001. She was talking to me real strong. I lost my mind and slapped her in front of the kid. Yeah, okay, so he's a piece of crap as well. All right, so he is as bad as Russell Brand. Fair enough. Fair enough. And so Brand is also a guy that says that he can prove that 1 times 1 equals 2. And if you know anything about maths, that is bonkers. Like, that's bonkers. You can show that with a simple sort of grouping of set arrangement. Like, I've got 1 coffee cup. If I have 1 group of 1 coffee cup, it's 1. Like, it is so easy to show that 1 times 1 does not equal 2. And if I have 1 group of 2 pens, there's a total of 2, right? Like, this isn't hard. This is stuff that you learn in kindergarten. Like, it really is that basic. That's how we multiply, just groupings of things. Like, we have 2 groups of 2, there is a total of 4. And he doesn't get that. It's so wild. It's so wild. But thanks, Spooky. Maya, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upstage you. I really didn't. Look, I'm only doing the YouTube video of this. There is a longer version on Rumble. So if you want to do the Rumble one, you go, girl. Like seriously. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, I think that um I think that we've got to talk about this. Yeah, sorry, I did miss that. I thought I read up on all about him, but I did miss that. I really did miss that. So I do apologize. I don't know why this person hasn't been sent to prison. You know, why these people get a pass. It's wild, and I kind of it makes me very sad. Um, yeah, you're thinking about covering it. Look, there's a longer version on Rumble. I was having trouble getting it into my editor, so I kind of just thought, all right, well, I'll do the short version because I was going to chop it down, right? So I just thought I'd do the short version, and just sort of, um, just sort of do the one on there. Okay, so I think I'll get this started. Just remember that both of these people are horrible, and I'm really just here to make fun of them because it's just ridiculous.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me for a very, very special show. Am I the white Terrence Howard, or is Terrence Howard the black Russell Brand? It's a brilliant conversation. Geometry.
Well, I don't think they're either. I think they're two totally different people. I think Russell Brand is smart enough not to try and challenge mathematicians on math. I think he's smart enough for that. So I see Russell Brand as a lot smarter than Terrence Howard, because he just sticks to mysticism, spiritualism, the shared consciousness of humanity. He's really vague about, he doesn't challenge science in its field. He goes for conspiracies, things that you can't disprove, right? He doesn't go for maths and physics, which mathematicians and physicists can, debunk. Terrence Howard, he goes for more wishy-washy stuff that no one can disprove, unfalsifiable stuff. So he's a lot smarter. But I think they're both grifters. I really do.
Mathematics. Terrence Howard is having a second career, not as an actor, but as an extraordinary sort of spiritual entrepreneur. Like,
I can't think of a worse insult than to call somebody a spiritual entrepreneur. Right, that you're marketing spirituality, right? So I think that Russell Brand thinks he's being clever, but really I think that is a really horrible thing to be. It means that even if you take a metaphorical idea of spirituality, like your connection to greater things, for instance, because we all have that. We all have a connection to humanity. We all have a connection to nature. I don't think it is any kind of supernatural connection. I think it's just, we're born into nature. We have a physical reliance on other things in nature. It is just a sort of, if you want to define that as spiritual, even being an entrepreneur of that, like, you're selling the spirituality. Yeah, Billy, I agree. Just say grifter. Absolutely. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you're selling spirituality, it's a problem, right? Because you're and this is the thing. It's sort of a, well, shouldn't spirituality be above crass and sort of base finance and marketing and sales and things? Apparently not. Apparently in the United States, spirituality is for sale just like everything else. Oh boy. There's some things that should not be for sale. There's some things that should not be for sale. The Earth's pristine areas of natural beauty should not be for sale. The politicians and people with an ideology should not be for sale. There's certain things, things like the fire department should not be for sale. Like, there are things that we own collectively that should not be put on the market ever. And to be honest with you, I think one of those things is healthcare. That should not be on the market. It should not be something that is given out to the lowest bidder. I I don't know how we got into this situation where everything must go. Fire sale, everything must go. It's ridiculous.
I know a lot of cynical people would attack him, but I can't help but think they're the same kind of cynical people that would attack me. I think he's an open-hearted, good-hearted, and brilliant man. But let me
Open-hearted and good-hearted. Yeah, so good-hearted he hits his wives. Yeah. Yeah, Brand. That's your kind of good-hearted. Look, I have no doubt that he can have good intentions, right? Everybody can have good intentions. That doesn't mean he's a good person. And yeah, it's not cynical people, it's skeptical people. It is the idea that we say, hey, there's been these allegations to come up. We're not just, but what baffles me is that if you're not an ex-movie star or an ex-celebrity in the United Kingdom, and these things come up for people, they get prosecuted and put in jail. But these people don't. These people are still out there doing their crap without that. Trump doesn't get put in jail, been convicted of federal crimes. He's a felon, and he's still just let to wander free. This is a pattern that I see that is horrible, absolutely horrible. Look, it doesn't matter who you are. The law should apply equally. It ought to. You ought to be more. The law ought to be put on you harder because you are a leader or a celebrity or somebody high up, somebody who has influence and support. You should be more accountable, not less. And I think that things like, Nixon committing terrible crimes in office and just, well, we pardon him on the way out because that's what we do. It's no, he should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Even Bill Clinton lies to Congress. That's perjury. Oh, well, he's pardoned. Don't worry about it. No, worry about it. So I'm not just saying, hey, their side should be prosecuted. No, if it's our side, if you want to look at that really narrow binary kind of left-right distinction, which I generally don't, but a big deal is made about it by these people. So it's not just my side. Anybody that breaks the law should be held accountable for it. That's the social contract. We agree to follow the laws, as long as those laws apply to people higher up as well, right? To the people governing us, the laws have to apply. That is the social contract, that they're not in a separate class. They are of the same stuff that we are born of. It's ridiculous. 2.5 subs. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, anybody that can push the button. Look, if your cat can push the subscribe button, do it. Do it. Get them in here. I'll have cats in my audience. I don't care. But yeah, almost 2.5 subs. It's gonna. Hopefully, we can take off and build a good community. But anybody that is shown to break the law, I do not hold with giving pardons, giving exceptions, giving all of these things because they are important or too high up. There is nobody too high up to be held accountable. In fact, the people higher up should be held more accountable than your average person on the street, especially for an abuse of power. And I'll bring them up again. Eric Adams, he should be held accountable for what he's done. Absolutely. It is ridiculous. But yeah, these two, both of them, I didn't know about Howard, but yeah, definitely Russell Brand should be, and is sort of, trying to sort of whitewash it as oh, it's just a big conspiracy, no, I don't care about his drug use. I don't care about any of that stuff, but I do care about his behavior. He married Katy Perry. Then Katy Perry said, yeah, she inferred, in my opinion, that he was a bit of a monster. So, even somebody that doesn't speak out against the powerful, which is Katy Perry, she still went with a recording contract that abused one of their clients. Even she says that, or infers, in my opinion, that he's a bit of a monster. So, yeah.
You know what you think in the comments and chat. First 15 minutes will be available on YouTube, X, all those places. But ultimately, you've got to join us on Rumble Premium for a fantastic conversation. Haters.
Yeah, fantastic conversation. Give me money for that fantastic conversation. If he was true to his ideology, he wouldn't ask for money. He would just do it. But yeah, he's making money off of it. There's more on Rumble. I couldn't get it to work. Maybe it's something to do with my program. But hey, I think these 15 minutes are going to be glorious.
Are gonna love hating this, because this is two men of scant education using a lot of very, very long words. It's an ontological discourse that's part rap and part rhapsody. You're gonna love it. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Maya. I think you could bring up a good point. Married Brand is friends with Musk, don't trust her judgment. Right. But she does overlook a lot of bad things, right? Like she does, I get what you're saying. And I think that Katy Perry, she really sort of, I don't think she upholds, but she goes along with the status quo as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. So when she's saying it's bad, I think that if it wasn't really bad, she wouldn't say anything. I think Katy Perry doesn't rock the boat. I really think that's the case. So yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I think it's a case of when someone like Katy Perry's speaking up, it's bad. It's really bad, because usually she wouldn't rock the boat at all. That being said, yeah, I get you. But if this was only Katy Perry, I'd say, yeah, no, I wouldn't trust her. But it's also everybody else. The mountain of allegations against the guy, the mountain of women speaking up against the guy. And Katy Perry's one that some of the stuff she does, I really like. She has supported LGBTQI. She's supported women's rights and things. She's done a lot of good. She's also done a lot of bad. A lot of horrible stuff. Like she kicked an old couple out of their homes and nuns out of a nunnery that she wanted to buy and really force them out. It and the one that gets me is that Keisha, the singer Keisha, had allegations of sexual assault against a music producer called Dr. Luke, and she just continued to work with him after a lot of women sort of said, no, we're going to support Keisha in what she's doing because they shouldn't have to go through this. So she copped a lot of criticism for that as well. So yeah. Oh, did he say that already? I think I missed that.
Ontological discourse.
Yeah, okay. So this Russell Brand uses the words ontological discourse, and thanks for bringing that up, Jessica. I really appreciate it. So ontology is actuality behind things. You can't have an ontological discourse, really. The problem that people have is they're like, well, it's ontologically so that this, and you can't really access an ontology. That is the actuality behind things. You can't really talk about ontology that much. Like when you're talking about what things are, really it's epistemology that gets you there. So when people say, oh, it's an ontological fact, it's like, yeah, at that point you go, yeah, you got no idea what you're talking about. Or, I know the ontology. That isn't a thing. It's more like the ontology is over there that we can't really access. Our epistemology is what gets us there. It's the vehicle that we use to get to the ontology, or the best we can, close to the ontology as possible. So it's a very weird phrase. I think I know what he's saying. We're going to have a discussion about reality. but it's a really weird way to describe it. I do agree with you, Jessica. It's a really weird way to describe, an ontological discourse. Oh, so you mean a discourse? Like it's very strange, very strange.
Course that's part rap and part rhapsody. You're gonna love it. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. All right, Terence Howard, thanks so much for joining me for Stay Free with Russell Brand.
Amen. Thank you for having me on this, man. I've enjoyed your platform and everything you've been doing with it.
Do you know what? Man, like, I'll tell you this, I'm exhausted. I can't cope with the news cycle. I can't cope with the pressure of generating content on social media. How are you doing with, thanks for the compliment, by the way, on keeping my weight down. That you've put me in a really good frame of.
Yeah, and this is just sort of the flattery will get you everywhere, right? Like, hey, flatter Russell Brand and he will talk thing. Russell Brand, I see him as, I don't think he's that genuine. He got a lot of praise to say, hey, he speaks genuinely. I don't think he is. I think he knows, he's very charismatic, right? Like, he is very charismatic. He speaks well, he speaks decisively. He has a very he knows how to talk in a rhythm that is engaging and sort of draws you in. And when he's talking, he has this sort of flow to it that almost makes a line of speech that won't allow anybody to come in. And he sort of has this very fluid way of talking. But that doesn't mean he's being genuine. It just means he's very charismatic and a lot of people listen to him. That should not be the metric at which we judge whether a man or a woman is actually speaking well or truth or speaking something that is worth listening to. Should not be how engaging they are. It should be by other means that we judge that metric. And so I think that Russell Brand has said a lot of, well, to quote an English word, bollocks, just dressed up as very charismatic.
Mind. Now, I'm down for life with you. I'm ride or die now. You've complimented me physically. This is just going to be me talking. My questions will be, why are you so great? Why are you so fantastic? How do you maintain your brilliance? But one thing I will say is,
top-level journalism, ladies and gentlemen, top-level journalism. It actually, now that I mention it, reminds me of that. If anyone saw that Laura Trump interview of Donald Trump recently on Fox News, where she basically just stroked his ego, like just absolutely stroked his ego, saying, oh, how did you make your presidency so amazing, kind of thing. It really is that. It's just, yeah. Yeah,
like you, like me, have entered into a more kinder. You've come out of a space that, let's call it for brevity, mainstream, in a more peripheral media spaces. How are you coping with what I assume are constant attacks?
Well, I look at it like, if you're not being criticized, if you're not facing some kind of headwind, then you're headed in the wrong direction. You have to have some kind of resistance. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and that reaction creates the resistance, and that resistance creates our character.
Okay, so the equal and opposite reaction is obviously one of the laws of physics kind of thing. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's really just for physics. It's not for sort of social engagement. That isn't a thing. Okay, that isn't. It reminds me of the whole Christian thing of, Christians are going to be met with scoffers and things like that, and it's sort of no. You might just be acting like a dick. If you go to a party and you are acting drunk and push somebody and knock over things, and people go, hey man, you are too much, you got to get out of here, like you are ruining the whole night. You can't just go, well, I'm doing the right thing because people are resisting. No, that's not a thing, dude. Like, seriously. The fact that people may resist, yes, you might be doing the right thing, but you might not be. You might be doing the wrong thing and people are actively working against you because you are hurting people. It's very, it's very, very horrible. Like, you can't judge whether you're doing the right thing by how much pushback you're getting. That's like saying, hey, I tried to rob this bank and I got a lot of resistance. I must really be on the right track. Come on now. Come on. What are you talking about? So this is the kind of nonsense that they use to justify why people are critical of them, while sort of, oh, I know I'm doing the right thing. And you hear this from Christians a lot. You do. You're sort of like, well, Jesus said we would have resistance. That doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. It doesn't. There's certainly things that you'll get resistance for that are the right thing to do. You're standing up for people that are homeless, and the police want to move them on, or you're standing up to the ICE raids and things. Sure, yeah, absolutely. You'll get resistance, and you're still doing the right thing. But it doesn't automatically mean that because you get resistance, you are doing the right thing. No, that's not. Wow.
So the more light that's shone upon me, even whether it be negative, or be positive, it's still going to, at the end of the day, we're all going to end up back as the creator.
And who's the person in the background? I don't know who that is. I noticed that when I was skimming through it. Who is that person in the background? And I think Terrence Howard, I think he considers himself something of a like a charity guy. What's the word? God, I said it just before and I've forgotten it. Philanthropist. I think he does consider himself that. Does he have a wife or something? Who is that in the background? I don't think he has a wife at the moment. I mean, Miranda Pack was his wife. Is that Miranda Pack in the background? I have no idea.
And the full.
Oh, and Left-Handed Jedi for $5. Thank you, Jedi. Rubber bands have resistance. Maybe I should push an elastic universe. You know what? As sad as it is, that would make a lot more sense than what Terrence Howard is talking about. I don't know anybody, even a primary school child, that would think that 1 times 1 equals 2. It is so wild. It's so demonstrably bad. I've heard worse. Look, I'm all in. I'm in with you. Elastic universe. Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, you'd have to believe that the universe would stretch, and sort of the expansion of the universe is a stretch, and then it would, the elasticity would come in, and it will contract into a glorious one. A glorious one. Oh, Star Song, good to see you. Member for 5 months. Pro-lifers tell me I have no right to life. Yeah. The irony, the absolute irony. And it's incredible how many pro-lifers push the death penalty. Like, I was commenting on this the other day, actually, Star Song, in one of my videos or one of my live streams. It's incredible that they are, don't really care about, the convictions that are false, the incorrect convictions on death row. They don't care about people that are on there for not that bigger crimes, and they don't care about the disparity between white and black people on death row. They don't care. They only want more people out there. It's incredible. He's married? Is he? I don't know. I don't know, Maya. I don't know. I have no idea.
Full circle of all things. There's the creator. Perfection can't turn itself into imperfection.
Perfection can't turn itself to imperfection. Well, I don't know what and how you would recognize perfection in the first place. Um, my ideas about perfection is um, it's kind of like the infinite. How can you even tell that it's infinite, right? Like you have something that ostensibly you're saying, "Hey, that's perfect." How do you know it couldn't be better? How do you know? Because, if it is better, how do you know it can't be better still? Like perfection is one of those things that I think is you know, it's a concept. It's purely conceptual. I don't think we can ever reach it. I don't think it ever is a thing. Like infinite, I think that perfection doesn't actually exist in the real world. So him saying, "Oh, perfection can't become imperfect." Do you have something perfect to show me? What's perfect? If you're going to say the Garden of Eden, I would laugh my ass off. The idea that the Garden of Eden was perfect with, a tree that you can't eat from just out in the open with, very, very delicious looking fruit and a snake going through it trying to convince people to eat it. That's perfection under you. Okay. Okay. You've got a very weird idea of what perfection is. Is heaven perfect? Because it doesn't sound perfect. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Like, what examples do you have of perfection, Terrence Howard? Because certainly not me, and it's not you. But I don't understand why, with sort of entropy or disorder over time, why something perfect can't become imperfect all by itself. Entropy would sort of suggest that is the case. If you're taking perfection to be infinitely ordered, for instance, I don't know what he means by perfection, but things have a tendency towards disorder. So, you know, entropy sort of says, yeah, they can, but this is Terrence Howard. He can't even add up correctly. So,
Perfection can only beget perfection. So our perception is off, because how could the universe be so perfectly made and yet we be so flawed? It is just our understanding that's flawed. So no matter what's happening to me, I was just watching a long
how is the universe perfectly made? I'd like to know. Well, for a start, I don't think it was made. I think that the universe formed through natural causes. I don't see any reason to think there was some kind of creator, as he's trying to say. Um, I don't like. What do you mean by the universe is perfect? It doesn't seem to be perfect. There's like galaxies crashing into one another. I don't know what he means by perfect. I don't know how he quantifies that. I don't know how what kind of perfect are you talking about? Perfectly chaotic, maybe? I don't, I have no idea how he got that the universe is perfect. Is it fine tuned? Is that what he's trying to get at? Because even though these sort of constants that we have seem to be for our universe, maybe those constants could be better. I don't know how he qualifies this statement. Very strange.
and I'm sorry to go on like this, but the New Zealand one, and they were in Tasmania, and this woman Gina, who had lost her child, many years before.
A New Zealander in Tasmania, Gina, who had lost her child. Okay, I should be able to find this. I have no idea what he's talking about. Does he know that New Zealand and Tasmania are different places? Um, uh, is it Shayla Phillips, a missing 4-year-old? Because she was found apparently. When was this? Terrence Howard. Oh, it's more than 3 years ago. I doubt he's talking about this. What the hell is this man talking about? Does anybody know? Uh, Dad and 2 daughter missing in Tasmania. Did we get a name?
When she had cancer, she had this beautiful mental attitude. that never once, even though she broke down and cried, never once did she curse or blame the gods or blame life. She just dealt with it from a happy and grateful place. And I mean, I took a great lesson from that, because at the end of the day, we're just gods unaware of our divinity.
So she lost her daughter and was grateful and happy. I don't see that as particularly healthy response. Um, I don't. I have no idea what he's talking about, but it's sort of, you know, I don't. Yeah, I'm looking through. I'm trying to find it, but I don't really see it. I've got no idea what he's talking about. But I would really worry about um somebody that lost their child and was grateful and happy. Oh, even though she cried. Yeah, you're right, Victoria. Yeah, even though she cried. Well, I mean, but she was crying gratefully. Come on, dude. What the hell? I don't know what he's talking about. Like, he hasn't mentioned any names or anything as far as I can tell. It's weird.
It's important, I think, that your foundation is a spiritual one, because me, when I get pulled into the temporary, and it happens to me most days and a lot of the time, I end up mired in this kind of selfishness, Terence, that I can't really reliably withstand. Like,
I think that might be a you problem, Russell. That might be a you problem. So, your foundation has to be spiritual. I don't see why. I don't see why. Um, you can sort of you can sort of, I guess, if you're using spiritual as some sort of metaphor for human connection, maybe, but I don't think your foundation would be in that. I think your foundation should be in reality. It should be in the best ways we can interpret and we can analyze the world around us, the most accurate ways. That's going to be the foundation for being able to interact with the world. If you don't have an accurate view of the world, how are you supposed to interact with the world in a correct manner, in the way that is the most beneficial to you and the people around you and other humans and everybody else? You can't. You can't. Look, Maya, if you want to do that on your show, you can. All right, this is mine, so I can take Terrence Howard as seriously as I want. All right, okay. Maybe he's got the secrets of the universe. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. But maybe. No, I don't. I don't really. I mean, it is Terrence. It's just trying to figure out what he means is it's hilarious to me. And I do enjoy trying to figure out what the guy means. It's like a puzzle, like, how did he get to this conclusion? Because he doesn't explain how he got to that conclusion. He doesn't explain anything. He just says it. And it's like, how would a brain actually get to that conclusion is interesting to me. But I think the foundation for anything has to be, a reality. Like, what are things around me? How is the best way to interact? And, okay, let's have an ontological conversation and say, what is the best way to find the actuality of, the world around us, our reality around us? What is that? How do we evaluate it? How do we use that information to make things better, not just for me, but for everybody? So when he's saying, hey, it has to be founded in spirituality, because when I get in the physical or the material, I get drawn down into this selfishness. No, you're just being a selfish person. And he thinks that spirituality somehow gets him a free pass. It gets him out of it. It doesn't. It doesn't. In my opinion, he's still doing spirituality for selfish reasons. He wants to seem better than what he is. He wants to seem more powerful than how he is. He wants to, believe he's a good person, in face of all available evidence. He wants to think that he's somehow perfection put on earth. He's still being selfish. He's just being selfish with he's being a spiritual entrepreneur. He's still being selfish.
I have surrendered to Christ. I've become Christian after, for a long time, having a kind of somewhat diffuse and autodidactic spiritual perspective. You know, like I just was watching something.
Yeah, so autodidactic means self-learning, that nobody teaches it to you. So I would have described him as kind of just a woo guy. You know, I mean, he just was sort of very spiritualistic. Oh, you know, the greater human consciousness of the world when combined into the force that comes from. That's basically what he was like. And, you know, I used to think, oh, yeah, he's kind of this woo guy, but he's pretty harmless. And I think with everything that's come out, I don't think he's harmless anymore. I think that he has two sides to him. I think there's a public side where he tries to present himself as a lovable, charismatic hippie that means no harm to anybody, and the side that is actually Russell Brand, which is a sexual predator, somebody that will physically abuse people, just not as nice a person. Now, I'm not saying that he's absolutely awful, but you know, I think that he tries to present this side of himself that is not that accurate. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I really think that he uses this spirituality as a crutch to get him away from his vast failings as a human being.
Watching a YouTube video clip of some people called Minority Report, I think is what they're called, criticizing me and stuff.
Yeah, Minority Report is Sam Cedar, and he's, you know, I'm not a huge fan of Sam Cedar. I haven't followed him that much, but he seems pretty reasonable and grounded. Like, he seems like he has a pretty reasonable things to say. He seems pretty grounded in all things, you know, like, so I don't have a problem with him. I'm not surprised they criticized you, considering your behavior that's come out. I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised. Oh, they don't take him seriously in the woo community either. No, it's because his sort of thing was so outlandish kind of thing. I don't know. He doesn't really fit in anywhere. And I really question the timing on his finding God. Like, he seemed to have happened as soon as he got into trouble. As soon as he got into trouble with his comments about COVID restrictions, as soon as he got into trouble about, you know, reports of sexual assault and things, oh, I'm a Christian now. And it's kind of, I get suspicious that he has done it to alleviate fears of being a sexual predator, just like Trump, who basically, oh, I'm a Christian, you know, I love every verse in the Bible equally. I think a lot of that was to allay in the right wing accusations of being a sexual predator, because for some reason Christians, despite all available evidence, despite the long line of Christians that have done heinous things, for some reason they don't think Christians can be sexual predators, and they consider them, you know, other Christians, less predatory than, say, atheists or whatever. They think that atheists just go out and do whatever, even though the evidence suggests the other way. Even though the evidence suggests the other way round, that Christians will commit more of these crimes. Yeah, and I agree, James Wolfe, yes, to ally himself. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I never did find out who that person was that carried themselves so well. Interesting.
And like, I watched it because I thought, I want to watch things where people are attacking me and see if I can stay in my kindness. One of the things they were attacking is like the way that I talk. And I reckon like you like me are probably from a normal background. You've educated yourself. You've not gone to some like fancy university or anything like that. So like all the stuff you know is probably personal experimentation. Based on the early part of our conversation and other podcasts and interviews I've watched you in, seems to me that you've done some sort of psychedelic experimentation. At least that's like my guess. I hope I'm not mischaracterized.
Okay, so first off, I don't think, and the way he talks, Okay, so the way he talks is perfectly fine. Okay, he's from England. I know that a lot of American people hassle people with English or Australian accents for that matter because they want to just strawman them. What gets me when I see him talking with people is the way that he engages. And I want to sort of talk about what I mean by that. He kind of has this flow where he basically talks at them very forcefully and doesn't allow any kind of dispute. He'll kind of um, have this constant tone that keeps going. It's almost like a song. It doesn't stop, and he'll move on to other things without giving them a chance to respond. He doesn't allow people to actually air their ideas unless they agree with him. And that's more the engagement than how he talks. It's really how he talks to people rather than, how he talks, right? It's the way that he kind of engages that's the problem. So he'll have this long, meandering, sort of monologue-ish kind of speeches almost that won't allow people to disagree with him. And when they do start to, he'll interrupt them kind of thing. And you'll notice this all the time. And you'll notice right-wingers do it all the time. They'll talk constantly to try and get multiple points out. And then when somebody addresses one, they'll interrupt and just sort of cut them off, which I think is a problem. It is a problem. So yeah, I but I can imagine that criticism. I don't have a problem with the way that he talks. He may be a bit loud for me. He really does when he gets into a thing. He really does snap it out. But hey, some people don't like some accents. Some people probably don't like my accent. Cool. Whatever. It's not like I can do anything about it, and it's not like I really want to. I'm cool. I don't see the problem. You can understand me, right? Okay. What's the problem? But I mean, some people even get angry when somebody has like a Latino accent in their area. It's like, what's your problem? Like, what is your problem? I don't understand it. It's so wild. It's so wild.
In you there, like when you're sort of when you're like following your own path, there's
in case in point, Terence Howard tries to say something and he kind of just goes on kind of thing. It is this kind of thing that I would criticize, not the way he talks. It's how he talks to people.
There's a lot of pitfalls in that. It sounds to me like have got a somewhat pantheistic view of spirituality. The divine is in all things. God is everywhere. God is everything. And I dig it and I like it. But the collapse into Christianity for me was important because in surrendering to Christ, I feel like I'm surrendering to a man, and my resistance to that, as well as a God, a man as well as a God, before that, I felt like I was the center of my own personal cosmos, and that was the problem for me with a kind of new age approach to reality.
Yeah, that's kind of egocentrism, not new age. That may be part of the reason why the new age people didn't really consider him one of their own, because new age people, they can be selfish just like anybody else, but I wouldn't say a propensity of them are. I wouldn't say can you speak in American Valley Girl? Big Bad Mama. I don't know how to do that. Hold on. What's American Valley Girl? Oh my God. I can't believe you asked me that. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Just.
Like that, me being at the center, Terence, has messed me up.
Oh, they're probably just mimicking his voice. Right. So they're probably just going, oh, me being at the center. Yeah. I gotcha, Maya. Yeah, I gotcha. Oh, my God. That's all I can do. I'm sorry. I'm bad at impersonations. I really am.
Me recognizing, oh wow, as a Christian, I just believe the same thing as a bunch of grandmas and crazy people and poor people and people that have just took it as it given to them in church. I believe the same thing they believe, that Christ is King. He died for our sins. I'll know eternal life through faith in him. So, like when you're
Yeah, it was pretty bad. No, I agree. I agree. I've never been called upon to do that before, and I hope I never am. Again, look, this seems performative to me. This is my opinion. I could be wrong, but it seems like he's now not talking to Terrence Howard. He's talking to the audience now, which is weird to do in an interview, right? So when you're interviewing somebody and you're sort of talking to them, um, usually you don't go on this kind of, performative thing to the camera kind of thing. You're usually talking to them and then saying things, asking questions, illuminating things. This is Russell Brand doing a speech about his own religion, which ostensibly is Christianity at the moment, and I think that so Christianity, it has a problem, and it is very attractive to people who have a history of and a propensity to in the future to do horrible things, because it allows you to sort of say, "Hey, nobody on this earth can judge me. I'm only judged by this God, and you don't have a right to judge me." And we're all sinners. So you know Harold over there on the other side of the pew is just as bad as me, because he once looked at a woman. He saw a woman's ankles. Harold over there is just as bad as me. We all sin, right? Yeah, but there's a big difference between something trivial and something like what Russell Brand has done, which is sexual assault women, and in even in professional settings, like not that it's fine in casual settings either, but in professional settings, like horrendous things. Women going to work, they just want to go to work, do their job, and he has absolutely, you can destroy somebody's um, um, confidence in their workplace by that kind of crap. Like, seriously. But the idea under Christianity that we're all sinners, we're all lost, we're all fallen, it provides this equality between people that are doing trivial things that are counted as sin by Christianity and people doing heinous acts, and it gives them a place to go, well, we're all sinners, Harold's a sinner too, and I know God loves me and I'll get this in the end, and all I have to do is pray to God and be forgiven. And meanwhile they'll continue on with this awful behavior, and I think it's a problem. It definitely is a problem. Big Bad Mama for $3 for your Valley Girl attempt. Okay, I love how he said it wasn't like a for your Valley Girl impersonation. Like, it didn't even raise to that level. It's just an attempt. No, okay, I gotcha. Thanks, Big Bad Mama. Thank you. I do appreciate it, though. I really do. But yeah, I wouldn't call it an impersonation either. It was an attempt. I'll work on it. Look, it'd help if I actually knew what a Valley Girl sounded like. But anyway,
You're in this sort of space, like you're engineering and creating, as you said, your own perception of reality, the ulterior and ultimate reality, the reality of God, the reality of the light of the consciousness. Do you not sometimes feel a bit stranded out there and afraid out there?
and that's where we differ. I don't think you create your own reality. I think that reality exists around you, and we try our best to figure out what that reality is. Okay, that's what we do. But some things, like science, describe it very well, because we can do things based upon it. We know we can describe how airflow works, because um, um, we can put planes into the air now. We can actually do things in reality to change and um, um, you know alter our living conditions, alter the world around us, in which we can do things that we hadn't before. That's science, and by extension, engineering, and all of the other fields that follow. We can do this. But sort of going out there and saying, hey, I'm creating my own reality, that is not what's happening, right? You're just creating an abstraction in your imagination of what you want reality to be. That's all you're doing. Reality will not change because you're out there pretending like it's different. It doesn't change. And that's why, he says an ontological conversation. You can't change ontology. You can't. It just is. So yeah, I think that his idea, it's almost going on The Secret, right? That whole idea that, oh, you manifest things into an existence, which is just terrible, just a terrible idea, because people believed it and sort of wanted to manifest wealth, and they couldn't, because of their circumstances. They wanted to manifest all of these health outcomes, and healthcare doesn't work like that. And it was largely based upon anecdotal evidence of people going, oh, well, I wanted to manifest myself a Maserati, and suddenly I got richer and had a Maserati. But I think that's more to do with setting goals and working towards achieving those goals, and having sort of confidence in yourself, than any kind of supernatural thing. Leo Phileas. No, that's Star Song. I do apologize. I thought that was Leo for a sec. Star Song. Sorry, Star Song. I do apologize for $5. Biblical contradiction. Judge that ye be not judged, and also know ye not that we shall judge angels. Okay, that's weird. I haven't heard the second one. Of course, and we have the thing from Jesus, just judge not lest ye be judged yourself. But yeah, so it's very strange to hear them wrestle with that one. Christians wrestle, because they sort of go, well, they mean don't judge without being judged correctly, or with evidence and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't really say that. That's the thing. It doesn't really say that. And it depends on which Bible you're reading. Be judged. Yeah, that was in Matthew. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. Wow, there is too many judged in that. Damn it. And with the measure you used, it will be. So they essentially say, hey, you can judge people, but be good about it. And it's very strange, because as atheists, we would say that they are some of the most judgmental people ever. Even what clothes you're wearing. Like, there's jokes among Christians that, Sunday at church is just everybody going in and judging each other's clothes. So, it gives them, they sort of want to say, hey, we have all of these things that we adhere by that makes us more morally superior to everybody around them, but they don't actually do them. Jesus said, give away all your possessions to the poor. That's a pretty noble thing to do, but they don't do it. They don't actually do it. Like, I can judge Valley Girl impersonations. Why are you hating on Valley Girls anyway? Like, seriously, is this something I don't know about? I mean, I know that there is like a stereotype around them, but surely there's some, intelligent, considered, ethically minded Valley Girls out. Of all the things in the US right now, Valley Girls don't even make my top 2. They don't make my top 20. Like, they're really not. I don't see stop hating on Valley Girls. Seriously, I'm going to step in and defend the Valley Girls, even though I haven't really, I don't think really met one. I'm not sure. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
And do you not run out of resources sometimes, personal resources?
No, one of the things that happened to me early on, as I spoke about when I did the Joe Rogan interview and received a great deal of vitriol about it, was the fact that I was awakened and I awoke inside my mother's womb.
Uh-huh.
I woke up there and was aware, like, oh shit, I'm here. Okay. Don't forget. Don't forget what? It was, don't forget that everything comes down to how many bubbles fit in a given space and under what pressure and motion conditions. I say that because...
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. How many bubbles fit in a given space under motion and pressure? Wow. Okay, so Terrence Howard claims that he was awake in the womb and conscious and had to remember all of these deep secrets of the universe. I do not believe him. I don't know if he's lying. Probably. In my opinion, he's probably just making it up. Maybe he's just, convinced himself of this, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Because the brain development while it's in the womb, you don't even have a sense of identity. You don't have a separate identity than your mother. You are part of the same system. You think you are part of the same system. You don't even have object permanence. So how he could go, well, you've got to remember, again, they love to throw out unfalsifiable things and then say, well, you can't prove me wrong. Well, no, but you have to prove yourself right. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's not how it works. It's wild to me that he's sort of like, well, I did all these things and I came up with this and I had this revelation, but you've got to prove me wrong. No, we just don't believe you. We 100% don't believe you. And that's okay. If you're cool with that, that's fine. We'll just ignore you. But yeah.
Because my path was chosen for me. My path, I'm not following my own way. Like, I did the Christianity thing. My father, I started with the Bible from 5, 6 years old. And when I was 5 and I awoke in the middle of the night and this entity had a conversation, took me down this watery path and asked me if I could have anything I wanted. And we were very poor at the time. I was like, so I thought for a moment, and then without hesitation, it seemed, I said, I want to know how everything works. And that being opened up a door and took me into this room that had a crystalline flower and started handing me.
Okay, so Terrence Howard is basically saying, I had a dream. I dreamed something. Right? Because if Terrence Howard was actually shown how everything works, he would be like, he's trying to tell physicists, and it doesn't make any sense. If he actually knew how everything worked, it wouldn't, he would have revelations that would help physicists. They don't. They're nonsensical. They don't make any sense whatsoever. I did a video on Terrence Howard in the past where I basically explained, he was basically saying that like the way that 2 to the power of 2, and as the powers go up, it works out to be this thing. And like, if you look at it mathematically, of course it does. Of course it does. It makes sense, right? And Terrence Howard just is like, oh, this is big coincidence, this big, I don't think conspiracy, but it's this, more significant than it actually is. It's like his 1 times 1 equals 2. He thinks it's significant. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's a triviality, and he's wrong. Like, he just doesn't understand. So, if he had these revelations, he would be able to write physics paper that are incredible. But, they're terrible. They don't make any sense. Physicists are like, this is laughably bad. It just is not, like, he just is either deluded or just lying. One of the two. So his claims that he was sort of aware in the womb and he had to remember all this information, and then he had a dream. Like, it's just a dream, my guy. We have weird dreams sometimes. You don't have to read into it. For some reason, he has to read into it. I don't know why.
All these incredible shapes that I had never seen before. And then that being, from that moment onward, I was able to wake up in my dreams, like in Inception. So I would see, if I was in a room class.
I mean, I see Brand's smile here, right? And I think Brand is just realizing, oh, this guy doesn't know what lucid dreaming is. What he's describing is lucid dreaming. It is something that people do. I must admit, I've not really experienced it. I've experienced it maybe once or twice in my life. I don't try to. But there's times in dreams where I've gone, and I rarely remember my dreams, and maybe there's more, but I rarely remember them for some reason. I don't know why, but I always, like, only have a brief idea of it and it's gone. It just gets flushed away for some reason when I wake up. Very rarely do I remember my dreams, but I do know that if you're wondering if you're in a dream, you can switch the light switch on and off, and the light levels won't change. Right? And there's a good reason for this. It's because the systems that monitor light are actually sort of hardwired to your eyes. You can't change them just in your mind. Can't be done. So if you switch a light on and off, and then try different lights and none of them change the light level, you're in a dream because the light doesn't change. Because you can't change the level of the light in your mind. It has to be done through your senses. So, yeah, lucid dreaming, it's a thing. But that's no reason to think that those lucid dreamings are actually reality in any way. It's just your brain giving you a dream, and you happen to know that you're in a dream. There's nothing more significant than that. That is all. But he thinks it's some kind of incredible thing. But and I think Russell Brand, in my opinion, he knows, like, oh, this is a lucid dream. Now, I don't know whether he'll lean into, hey, it's actually some sort of vision, or it's you experiencing a spiritual reality or something. But it's just a lucid dream. Relax, guy.
Room and I didn't have no fucking pants on. I didn't sit there and say, oh, I don't have pants on. I would ask myself, how did I get here? If I didn't know how I got there, and I'd ask myself, where am I going? And I didn't know where I was going, then I would know that I'm dreaming and that I can control it. And I had access.
Yeah, that's just lucid dreaming. All he's described is lucid dreaming. That's it. That's all, Yeah, look, I cannot make myself Titan. I've experienced it a couple of times, but I think it was more by accident than purpose. And to be honest with you, I don't really want to engage in lucid dreaming. It isn't something that I really want to do. I find that, I'm happy. I'm happy that I just get sleep. I really like sleep. I really do like sleep. It's one of those things where I never used to sleep when I was younger. I, didn't sleep a lot when I was younger, and I actually enjoy going to sleep now. I really do. But I've got no. I don't really want to engage in loot. It's not something that really appeals to me. I'm not sure why.
To the Akashic record. And therefore I was able to compare. I was a Jehovah's Witness for over 25 years. I went around teaching everyone as much as I could about the Bible until I learned that according to the Bible, mankind has only been in existence for just over 5,000 years.
Well, it doesn't specifically say that in a Bible, right? It doesn't specifically say that. They added up all the ages of the people in the begats kind of thing, and they came up with this number. But yeah, if you do take the Bible literally instead of metaphorically, oh, these were a bunch of people interspersed with others, they can apologize it away. But I think that yeah, if you read it literally, it is 6,000 to 8,000 years, and that's all. So yeah, I find myself agreeing with Terence Howard here. The Bible can't be true if taken literally because it's 6,000 to 8,000 years, and that's bullshit. Yeah, no, I agree with him. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Terence Howard, but the man has a point.
Just over 5,000, 6,000 years, 6,048 years based on biblical chronology. But we know that there were Aborigines that have been around for over 60,000 to 100,000 years. Mm-hmm. And then I began to add.
I think 100 is a bit on the excessive side. I'd be conservative and say 60. But yes, Aborigines have been around for that long in Australia. Yeah, he's actually correct. And, not just civilizations have been around for longer than that. Like, I'm sorry, it's just in Japan, the civilization has been around for longer than that. In China, it's been around, but I think that the Australian Aborigines are used because they kind of had been around and their culture hadn't changed for that amount of time, right? They kind of have been going strong in the same, cultures, I'm sorry, different cultures throughout the different tribes for an incredible amount of time, with their way of life essentially unchanged, because they don't need to change it. They were very good at what they did. They hunted, they gathered, they moved around. They lived in harmony with the land around them, and it really is a beautiful cultures. It's just a beautiful set of cultures. Um, it's really sad as well. It's incredibly sad, and it's sad that when white people sort of arrived on the shores of Australia, some of the tribes thought they were their dead ancestors returning to them. It's so sad, and it's absolutely horrible what happened to them.
But if everything in the Bible, if the Bible claims to be God's word, God's the entire Bible claims to be God's word. Therefore, if you find one fault in it, you have to throw the entire thing out, because the entire thing claims to be inspired by God. And one of the things that Jesus was saying constantly was that you are to become like me and be whole like me with my Father, to become Christ-like. And God said, you are made in my image. So what does that mean? That means when God looks in the mirror, he should see us. And when we look in the mirror, we should see the creator.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. If something is made in its image, I don't. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that, because if something is made in its image, you shouldn't look in the mirror and see the thing that made you. I don't see that's. Maybe, but the question is of how similar is it? So this is very wishy-washy language. Like, if something is made in its image, a statue is made in the image of a dictator or whatever. How much artistic license is used? How much is changed? We're obviously not made exactly in his image, because we all look different. We have different features. We have different things about us. To me, it's just sort of this. Well, why do we explain why humans all look similar? Well, we're all made because we're made in the image of a god. It sounds like an excuse, but really we know why we look similar, and that the reason is genetics and evolution. Like, we are made similar, or we form similar, because we are the same species. It's not that hard to understand. But what do we see then when we look in the mirror? What do we see? We see the product of an incredible process that has honed us into a species which can accomplish things just undreamt of by any other species on this planet, or to absolutely destroy ourselves and remove ourselves from the gene pool, one or the other. Incredible potential and incredible danger. That's sort of what I see. We've got to be aware of our failings as well as our strengths, and then apply them in a way that is beneficial for us all. That's what we've got. That's what I see. But hey, maybe I just see an Australian guy who is just out there saying his mind because it's the only mind I have. Maybe.
And we do not need, me as a father, I don't need my son to go through some other person in order to have conversation with me. We are all equal to the creator because we share the creator's image. And once we recognize that, then that same divine spirit that led us to the egg against 500 million of our own brothers and sisters, that allowed that instinct that got us to the egg, if that got us to life, then what are we doing trying to decide where we're going from here? That's why Alan Watts said the Wu way. Follow the Wu way.
Do not follow the Wu way. I don't know what that is. The way of Wu. This horrifies me. The Wu way. It is not the way. Wu Wei is a concept from Taoist philosophy, or often translated as non-doing or effortless action. Yeah, there's nothing really wrong with that. It's acting in a way that is natural, harmonious, and without excessive force or striving. So it's basically moving in harmony with your surroundings, or moving in the stream of your surroundings. And I kind of think that there is something to that, right? Like, it's not so I want to reiterate here, it's not like woo as in spirituality. It's just a way to, in a philosophy, because Taoism is a philosophy. It's not even a religion. It's just a philosophy, right? And we know that certain actions, when relaxed, deliberate, and smooth, are better than actions taken by struggling a lot. Okay, so this is a lot what Taoism is about. It's about relaxing into the flow of things, relaxing into letting your mind go, and not sort of trying to think too hard about it, and just doing rather than evaluating. And there is something to this, right? Like, we do have a saying, I think it's a military saying, and it's like, fast is good, but slow is smooth, and smooth is good, right? So, um, if you take hasty actions, you might be slower than somebody going slowly in a smooth way. And I've experienced this before, and you sort of see it in martial arts a lot, when they sort of say, "Hey, flow like water." You don't want jerky actions. It's all about smoothness. And I think that there's been some sort of I remember a clip with Michael Jai White, who's a very good martial artist, and he was with another guy called Kimbo Slice, and he sort of said, try to move your hand, kind of thing. And he did this really quick punch, and it was really jerky, and you could see it coming a mile off. Basically, it was telegraphed because it was so jerky, and he could move his hand. And then he sort of tells him, "Hey, try to move it again," and he just smoothly put his hand up, like, just smoothly whack. And the fact that it was so smooth is why it was fast. It's very a weird contradiction in life. So I'm not entirely opposed to what he's saying here. That calm, fluid movement is sometimes faster than fast, hasty movement, and fast, hasty things. I totally get what he's saying, but his link to sort of put it into spirituality with seeing God and things like this, like you look in the mirror and see God. I Why? How does that translate into smooth, deliberate, and harmonious action? Is better than spontaneous, inefficient, jerky action based. I don't understand it. Like, how does that tie in? Maybe just in his mind? I don't know.
The least resistance, and that's the universe pulling you. So that's my guide. That's what keeps me when everything else feels like it's coming apart. And then moments like this where people are responding to the truth. That makes it okay for me. I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. I'm here to open the door for enlightenment to anyone that wants it.
Yeah, I don't really think that's the case. I don't think he's opening enlightenment. I think that he is taking a few things, and um, I think he is sort of misrepresenting things like math and things like that. And I don't think he has a good grasp on it. But that doesn't mean everything he says is wrong. There are things. Um, there are things that he says that I agree with. Like, it just, yeah. I'm not going to take this black and white view of everything that he says is wrong. It kind of reminds me of those conspiracy theorists who's like, you'll say, "Hey, we need to do this," and they're like, "Oh, you believe your government on everything?" No, but that doesn't mean that everything they say is wrong. If the government tells you not to eat paint chips, it's probably a good idea. Like, just because they're the government doesn't mean it's wrong. Okay, we got to evaluate this thing independently of who's saying it. And there's nothing wrong with sort of, following Taoism and believing that you need a harmonious life. But Taoism, my problem with it, a lot of it is sort of, don't think about things, just do. And while that can make you more calm and things like that, I don't think it's particularly useful in some situations. I think in some situations we want to actually evaluate things. So I think that it's not a bad philosophy, but like all philosophies, there's a time and a place for it.
I'd like to get high with you, Terence. If I got high, I'd get high with you. You're a mystic. I can see why you're causing so much trouble. I had this realization relatively recently.
I don't know. Is Russell Brand clean? No idea. He says he is. No idea.
Amidst the undifferentiated superstate, there may be two paths. The path of the bridge. I have got a few teachers that are kind of druidic, or even atheistic, people that are able to operate in the undifferentiated state, the superstate, where before it collapses from wave into the particular, it could go literally limitless direction.
Okay, so I mean, thanks Deepak Chopra. This is quantum mechanics, and I don't know why he's bringing up quantum mechanics at this time, because the thing that's acting like a wave and a particle is light. So I don't know exactly what he's talking about in reference to being a bridge and I don't know what he's talking about. The whole idea, and I think there was a movie. I remember seeing it. It was kind of a like loosely documentary. It was like Down the Rabbit Hole or something, and it was kind of I was blown away when I saw it, and I thought, oh man, that's awesome. Turned out to be complete crap. Like, all the physicists on there were kind of misrepresented, and it really was misleading about physics, about what they mean by a wave and particle duality. So I don't really trust him. Like, these infinite possibilities, that's not what it's saying. Okay, it's not saying that, hey, you've got infinite possibilities out in front of you and you can choose anything to happen because you have control over. No, that's not what it's saying. So the waveform collapse only happens when those particles are interacted with. We don't really have a way to measure them because we've got to interact with them in order to, we don't have a way to measure the wave, because when we interact with them, the waveform collapses into a particle. So it's just this misunderstanding. And maybe he watched that same one I did and went, oh, cool. But that isn't how it works. It isn't like that all of these waves are out there and you can collapse them into what you want. That isn't how it works. Okay, that's not what the physicists are saying. But there is a common belief out there, especially among the woo and spiritual community, is that basically these waves are out there, that you can select by spiritual means to collapse these waveforms and manifest things. It is part of, the secret people and the manifesting people that believe that you can do this, because when it interacts with something, it collapses into a particle. So why can't you change it? Because that's not the way it works. Okay, that isn't the way it works. What? No. Yes, thank you, Maya. Appreciate it. No, thank you. No, we're not going to be calling like viral outbreaks a genocide. No, please get out of here. No. Absolutely not. Unless you're a doctor, don't try to give medical opinions on this channel. And even if you are, do it through the proper means and not through some YouTube channel. Seriously. Wow.
I.e., within me, within you, there is this limitless consciousness that is actualized outside of time, this atemporal, eternal aspect.
A limitless consciousness that is actualized outside of time. So this is the problem for me, right? Like, these things are unfalsifiable. How do you falsify that? If you want to say, okay, you're making a claim, right, that you've got an unlimited actualized potential, how do you actually falsify that claim? And this is where I'm saying Russell Brand is a lot smarter than Terence Howard. Terence Howard will put up that 1 × 1 = 2. Things that can be easily falsified, just incredibly easily falsified. I did it earlier in the stream. I'll do it again, right? So 1 × 1 is just one group of 1. Here is one group of 1. It adds up to 1. right? This is a grouping. This is one thing. It's a pen, one pen. The entirety, what it equals, what it all amounts to is one. That's it falsified, right? That's Terence Howard falsified. Very easy to do. Russell Brand, though, is a lot smarter. He'll say things like the unlimited consciousness that dwells within you, that lives outside time and space. And, how do you falsify that? How do you actually test to see if that's a thing or whether it's something else? You can't. So unfalsifiable things aren't even worth really considering as true, right? They're not worth considering because anybody can claim something unfalsifiable. I can claim that in the next galaxy over, there's a meatball octopus that controls every fragment of our lives through ether strands coming, undetectable ether strands coming into our galaxy. Right, they're in the Andromeda galaxy, just sitting there, just sitting there. How do you falsify that? And if you say, hey, I'm going to look through a telescope, well, he hides using his advanced technology. You can't falsify it. So it's not even worth considering as true. And there's a million things like this. There's Bigfoot, there's aliens, there's ghosts, there's goblins, there's leprechauns, there's fairies, there's all these things people have claimed exist and still do, I might add. There are still fairy watchers, people that believe that fairies are still out there. They just use their magic to hide. And when you say, hey, we've never even found anything to do with them, it's, well, they hide using magic. You can't find them. They're so good at hide. It is unfalsifiable. And that's why we don't consider falsifiable things for their truth value, because they're not even worth evaluating for truth. It is best to consider them false until we actually have evidence or a way to falsify them. And Karl Popper's, who basically, he did tons of work on the modern scientific method, or methods, I should say. He spoke a lot about sort of unfalsifiability, falsifiability, and fallibility. He spoke a lot about those subjects and what it means to be unfalsifiable.
Aspect of us. Now, what I found and what I've been granted through Christ, and I agree with what you're saying, is that the hallmark and the signature of the Almighty is in the human face. We are made in his image. We are expressions of him. Why would the triune God create us other than to love us? That there is this relational aspect.
Does God even have a face? Does God have a face? If William Lane Craig is to be believed, he's timeless, spaceless, immaterial. How can you be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial and have a face? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, usually when people say, hey, we're made in the image of God, I usually think they're talking about, sort of a nature. We're made in God's nature kind of thing, the image. But if you're talking about a physical image, what would it be to be timeless, spaceless, and immaterial, but we look like God? What does God look like? You're basically saying, hey, God looks like us. I don't think anyone's claiming to know what God looks like. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. I don't get it. But maybe he thinks God is material. I don't know. Maybe he thinks there's a spiritual, whatever that means, a spiritual representation of a human face on it. I don't know what that would mean. It's very, very, very strange.
In Christian theology, that's absolutely vital and necessary. And I liked what you said even before we came online. I think it was before we came online, like that we are perfection already, that perfection is available. And if
Russell Brand, you are not perfection. Oh, no. I don't, as I said, I don't think even perfection can be a thing in the real world. I don't think that would exist in the real world. I have yet to see a case of perfection. There's a number of problems. What does perfection mean? How do we tell something is perfect? Oh, this thing is amazing and awesome. And can it be any better? Because if it can be better, it's not perfection, right? So how do you know when something's reached perfection? You can't, because you don't know if it can get better or not. It's just the best you can see at that point. Like, just say you think person A is perfection, It's perfect in every way. And then someone comes along who's slightly better. You were wrong. Is there someone slightly better than them? Don't know. Really, a lot of Christians have to take it on faith that Jesus was perfect. But was he? He kicked over tables at the money changers and things like that. He seemed to get angry at a date plant for bearing dates out of season or not bringing forth fruit out of season. There was some weird stuff in there. Some weird stuff, and that's without going into the infancy gospels and things like that. Was he perfect? How do you know? Because the book says he was? Really? Really? And I mean, didn't he doubt at the end? Didn't he say, oh, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? Is that perfect? It's a very strange definition of perfect if he did doubt by the end. You'd imagine a perfect person would be understanding and be totally fine with it. I don't know. But I don't know how you would evaluate perfection. So, I mean, I don't think perfection exists in the real world.
There's a problem, it must be a problem of perception. But I recognize too that there's this requirement for humility. And one of the
and notice that this problem of perfection or problem with perception, right? Like, we're perfect and we're this amazing thing and we're awesome, but there's a problem if we don't, evaluate it. Because if people see us as a sexual predator and somebody that has been awful to other people, well, that's not me. I'm perfect. It's other people's perception. You see how this works? It's kind of this, well, it's not my fault. Well, your perception is wrong. And this man, Russell Brand, has been crying conspiracy against him, even though all of these people have spoken up saying that he has abused them in some way or assaulted them in some way. An awful human being. But he wants to say, oh, I'm perfect and it's your perception. Yeah, I don't know what his definition of perfection would be, but even under his definition, I can guarantee you he is not it.
The ways I've sort of understood this, Terence, is all of us know that somehow when it comes to material weights, measures and metrics, we're infinitesimally small to the point where we're almost irrelevant. It wouldn't matter if I didn't exist or if you...
What? Wait, what? Weights measured in metrics. We don't know if we're infinitesimally small. No. Compared to nanometers, for instance, we're infinitesimally large. It just comes down to relative sizes. What are you talking about? Oh, really? Yeah, no, I cannot explain to you how much I don't care. Like, seriously. I don't care about the man at all. Like, I do want to debate him and see if he can put up a defense for Christianity. That'd be cool. But I don't, if he wants to be a child, let him be a child. That's fine. That's cool. I don't care. This is a guy who promotes, taking votes away from women and, implementing a theocracy and implementing all of this stuff. Oh, look, no one's going to believe what Andrew Wilson's got to say. Like, seriously, Andrew Wilson? Really? Andrew Wilson. Yeah. You know what? I think if Andrew Wilson's trying to slander my reputation, it speaks good of me. Only his followers believe what he's got to say. Don't worry about it, Stoic. I've got nothing to worry about. Oh, you think I'm being a child? Okay. No, I'm not the one crying. Like, what kind of a person, and I'm going into a debate with Andrew Wilson, what kind of a person ahead of time tries to upset the person in front of a debate? Like, tries to get in their head or something? Are you serious? What is this, play school? What? Nothing that he can say is going to unravel me at all. Do you realize he's powerless? Maybe. I don't know. It does not bother me in the slightest. But let's go on. Yeah, this kind of thing, we're just talking about scale here. So you're basically saying, hey, in the great big universe, we're almost nothing. Yes, but in the subatomic universe, we're everything. Like, this is the thing. You can't just say, hey, all of these sort of, weights and measures, we're tiny in comparison. No, we're not. Because a weight and a measure is something like a nanogram, and we're incredibly weighty compared to that. Incredibly weighty compared to that.
Didn't exist, and yet all reality, as far as I can tell, or as far as you can tell, exists entirely within my consciousness. So there is this sort of tension between infinitesimally small and so vast that all reality is encompassed within us. And for me, this idea of humility...
Wait, all reality is encompassed within us? Well, damn, I better lose some weight. I didn't know I was that big. Wow. Okay, all reality is encompassed within us. I'm struggling to think of what that could mean that would sort of fit into modern physics or any kind of understanding of the universe. It's really weird. Well, no. Let's get it correct. He is a fascist. Okay, so he's definitely a fascist. I mean, I think his hashtag on a program was Big Daddy Fascist kind of thing. I think that he is a fascist, but that doesn't surprise me. A lot of these sort of right-wing Christian people are Christo-fascists, so, But anyway, yeah, so the entire reality, like, we don't even know the bounds of reality at the moment. We know the universe. Is there a greater cosmos sort of outside of the universe? Is it within another universe? Is it a God? We don't know. Like, there's nobody that knows this. Nobody's been outside the universe to check if there's any reality outside of it. Nobody's looked. So how do you know that it's there? Well, you basically have faith that you have some kind of all of reality within you. But I don't think that. Maybe he means in some way that you're there's quantum entanglement between you and everything in reality. Well, we don't know that either. It's possible, but just because there is quantum entanglement doesn't mean we're connected to everything. We may be, and just because something's possible doesn't mean it's actually so. So we don't know. And, all of these people like Ross Brent, they don't seem comfortable with saying, well, I don't know. They seem to want to say, well, I have the secrets of the universe. Listen in. And by the way, get my thing for X amount of dollars, by the way. Yeah. And I'm selling this and I'm selling that. Buy my DVDs and get the secrets of the universe. And you can't explain why you know or how you know or any epistemic chain going down to your own mind that would suggest you have access to this information. So you just pretend. You just say, hey, yeah, I've got it because I've got it. And there's a million people in the world, or, maybe not that many. There's hundreds of thousands of different denominations in the world all claiming to have this, amazing insight, secrets of the universe, and they all disagree. It's strange. Oh, it's supposed to be ironic? Okay, well, I mean, that's fine. Oh, look, maybe he's a theocrat. I don't know. But I really, this stream isn't for, getting into a high school fight with some other guy who I'm debating. So I'm just going to move on, and, he can represent himself in a debate.
This idea that how do I live in this world and not make myself my own God? When I make Russell my God, I'm in trouble, man, because then Russell's urges, Russell's wants and desires and needs and fears get elevated to the status of a kind of doctrine or dogma, like that my whole life becomes fear avoidance or...
Okay. Let's back up a second. You can live a life that isn't, like, this is a common thing we hear from theists. Oh, well, if you don't have a God, you make yourself your own God. No. I don't worship myself. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I don't elevate myself above the rest of humanity. I realize that that's what Russell Brand is saying, that when he didn't have a God, or, he didn't believe in Jesus, he raised himself up to be the most important thing in the world. Now, that seems to be a personal failing, not an entitlement of atheism, or entailment of atheism, I should say. You don't have to raise yourself up to a God. And I don't know really many atheists that do. Yes, there are egocentric atheists out there. No one's saying there isn't. There are atheists that only care about themselves. But that's not an entailment of it. There are other ways you can go. Like, I don't understand why this entailment. To me, this is Russell Brand's personal failing, and he still is being egocentric because he's holding himself up as somebody with this spiritual answers to give to other people. He's still doing this. Instead of saying, hey, this is just my opinion, he's saying, hey, this is what the world is, kind of thing. And I might add, it helps him especially in America, where he's currently based, in the United States, where Christians they sort of receive disproportionately favorable views from other Christians. It helps him to sort of be in the Christian camp, that people think that you are more trustworthy if you are a Christian for some reason. Because a lot of Christians and a lot of bad things, but they don't, it's just sin. Atheists are the ones that are untrustworthy, even though the atheists I know are reliable, decent, hardworking people. I don't know why. And more law-abiding. Just saying. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think that Christianity stops people from being selfish and egocentric. It doesn't stop people from doing that. There's prosperity gospel pastors who will boast about their wealth and take donations, to the nth degree, make a ton of money and be proud of what they have done, promising cures for all kinds of ills that don't work, and basically being so egocentric. There is people who are atheists that work for good of communities, do not boast about their achievements, and basically try to help everybody around them. So Christianity doesn't necessarily not make you egotistical, and atheism doesn't necessarily, make you egotistical. I think that just depends on the person. It's wild.
Pursuit of desire. And because I've lived a hedonistic life in the past, I bet you've had a phase of that where I've been able to sleep around a bunch, been able to do a bunch of drugs. Like, I've realized, I don't mean nothing. It's sort of somehow hollow and empty. And so, like the path.
Wow. Okay. So, spoiler alert, he's basically saying that a shallow, meaningless life of sort of just indulgence is meaningless. Wow. I'm so glad you got that epiphany from a God. No one's ever figured that out without a God. Tons of people have figured that out. Tons of people have figured out that if you don't have meaning in your life, something to work towards, and something more than just your own indulgences, you have a very awful life. We've got to have more than that. We have to work towards something. Like communities and connections. Humans are a social species. We need connections. It's really fascinating because they did an experiment on mice, and I can't remember when it was, but they basically introduced these drugs into the water supply, essentially. They had normal water, and they had, water laced with these drugs. And the mice got addicted to the drugs. and they would keep going back to the drugs. It was just a study in addiction. But then somebody sort of said, well, let's, they're just in a cage, they've got nothing to do. Let's put other mice in with them. Let's make them, things to play on, things to do, things to chew on, but mostly other mice in this experiment. And what happened was they didn't do the drug water. They just had the normal water again and again. And, they tried it and then stopped, because it isn't that getting beyond addiction isn't about, somehow alleviating this horrible thing. It isn't about that. And it isn't about finding God. It isn't about anything like that. It's about connections. It's about having a life worth living. And there's certain things that humans need to, for them to be happy. And one of them is acceptance and community and having something to work towards, self-actualization, being the best version of yourself that you can. That is the things that people work towards. And I'm not perfect in that respect. I'm still, self-improvement is an ongoing process till the end of your life. But, the idea that it is this God, it doesn't mesh with what we see on what helps people versus what hinders them. Christian people still turn to drugs. They do. Atheists can still get clean. They do. I did. I used to be a smoker. I quit. I used to, indulge in a bit of recreational drugs when I was younger, and I stopped it because I realized what Russell Brand did. It's not fulfilling. It's not something that I want to do. And if you do, hey, good luck to you. But I'm not talking about just using drugs. I'm talking about addiction, like the inability to stop. That's what I'm talking about.
Of Christ comes to me in pain, in serious pain. That's when I sort of realized him.
Yep, Christians prey on people in pain a lot. They sure do.
And he awoke within me when I felt his salvation. I'll be honest with you, there are days when I still feel adrift still. I feel like I'm suffering, man. There's days where I'm suffering, where I feel like, what have I got to say for anyone? To anyone? Why should I even have a podcast or a platform? Because, I'm just suffering. So I wonder how you deal with, if you sort of see.
Well, I kind of feel like you shouldn't have a podcast and a platform because you're a sexual predator. Right, the allegations and the things that have come out about you are absolutely horrible. But you're intimating like, oh, well, that's not my fault. That's got nothing to do with me. I'm just suffering. Okay, do you think that the people that, say the wife that you hit, do you think they suffered as well? Do you think they're suffering? Do you think they have their podcast on it? Like, what do you think's happening here? Look, I'm all for getting people help if they have these problems, but they first have to admit that it's a problem. Not that, hey, I'm suffering and it's all being done to me. This is stuff that he's done.
Yourself and I understand it and appreciate it, a realization of the divine, that the holy divinity is within you, that you awoke in your mother's womb, that you're able to lucid dream, and if you're able to exist on different levels.
Yeah, so he knows what lucid dreaming is. You're able to lucid dream. Yeah, it's not a great spiritual thing. It's just lucid dreaming. It's just being conscious in your dream. Like I said, happened to me a couple of times. Titan said he could let me know how it works. It's not a great big deal. I enjoy sleep.
Levels of reality, and all of us do in our dreams, and certainly in hallucinogenic states, and maybe reality itself is a type of chemical construct. Certainly it's difficult to argue against it. How do you not...
Okay. Look, Kafai, you're obviously after attention, so this will be the last time I give it to you. Like, I'm not doing this, but so no evidence that psychedelics are addiction. Now, there is two things to addiction. There is a physical addiction called neuroadaptation, right? That's where your actual neurons expect the chemical, and that's called physical addiction. Okay, that's one type. And some drugs do not have neuroadaptation. I believe cocaine is one that doesn't have neuroadaptation, right? Like it just doesn't. Your body does not still expect that chemical. Okay, that doesn't mean that it's not psychologically addictive. The other is psychology, which is behavioral based. Okay, so even if that is true, it does not address the psychology of it. Which psychology, you can get addicted to almost anything. Seriously, like it's just a psychological coping mechanism to cope with some sort of something that you can't handle. So even if that was correct, you're still not right. And that's the last comment I will have on it.
Fall into, well, what Terence wants is all that matters, and become kind of hubristic.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a thing that atheists go through, or people with a lack of God go through. I know some very humble atheists, in fact. And I think it is humbling understanding just how sort of precarious our situation might be on this planet. Understanding that, hey, we're in a very tenuous situation. And I would proffer that Christianity perhaps has the more egotistical thing. It's sort of saying, hey, we're a special people, not you. We're a special people, and we're going to get everything, and it's going to be perfect, and it's going to be all wonderful, and we're going to have this thing. And meanwhile, you're letting the planet suffer, or really the species suffer, because you think there's a better thing coming to you in the next life. I can't imagine a more egotistical thing, that you're willing to sacrifice what we have in order for some unproven reward after you die. That's really, really strange to me, rather than acknowledging that we're all part of the same planet and trying to help our fellow species on this planet. It seems very strange to me that they would then say, well, atheists are just selfish. Really? I'm doing my best. And, maybe I can't change the world. But you're not even trying. You're not even interested in trying. You want it all to be destroyed in some, apocalypse from your book, and, die, then you'll have your perfect reward, even though there's no suggestion that is the case. And then you can feel righteous that all the people, who don't believe are going to burn in hell because they're the wrong special people. Like, come on, who's the egotistical one here? You actually think you're so special that your sort of divine father's going to give you a reward, even though you're a complete piece of crap in life? Like, seriously? I don't know. Really weird. Really weird.
Well, when you put your finger, if I take my finger and put it inside the Pacific Ocean, back to the idea of infinitesimal and our contribution, the entire.
Oh, hey, if he puts his finger in the Pacific Ocean and I go over to Sydney and do the same, does that mean we're connected? Does that mean we're connected? Oh, I can connect to Terence Howard. This is amazing. No, it's just you both got your same finger in the body of water. Like, seriously, dude. I mean, technically, if you think about it, we're breathing the same atmosphere. Ooh. So what? So what? Like, when you actually boil it down, they're just molecules, dude. And water molecules have a sort of, they stick together. I don't know what you expect me to say to that. That's weird. Okay, what?
Ocean has to register that change of motion and pressure condition. That's how necessary we are. None of us is superfluous, because in order for one thing to happen, every waveform in the universe must co-sign that thing's existence, because every waveform is going to be adjusted and have to change its pressure and motion conditions based on that movement and motion.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true. I mean, he might be trying to get at quantum entanglement. I'm not 100% sure that's true. Quantum entanglement's basically that two quarks can be entangled in such a way that if you move one in one direction, the other will move in the other direction. And they've done various studies to show this is the case. But we don't know that everything is quantumly entangled, and we don't know that everything has an effect on everything else. I think he's trying to suggest that if you move a finger, then the universe registers it somewhere. Again, another unfalsifiable claim here. And the water doesn't seem to, is he trying to say that, hey, if you make a swirly in, off the coast of California, it'll change something in Sydney? I don't know. It's very strange. It's almost like a butterfly effect thing, right? Like a butterfly flaps its wings in Tokyo and there's thunderstorms in New York, that kind of thinking, which I don't think is actually true. Like, that's not really how chaos theory works. A lot of the time, those changes are just lost in the noise or something else cancels it out. Like, I'm not saying there's not causality, but I don't know how he knows that things would be different if he puts his finger in the ocean, because there's no counterfactual. There's no way to, sort of measure what it's going to be versus when he puts his finger in. So I don't know how he's reaching this conclusion. Again, unfalsifiable claims, things you can't check, which seems to be these guys' bread and butter, just making claims that are unsubstantiated.
That's why we know it is good to follow the universal flow. That's why we know that to follow the Russell way is actually following the universal way, because even Russell in fear is still accomplishing balance in the universe. Now, if Russell chooses to be more balanced, and like, I still smoke cigarettes.
Okay, so that was a cut because there was an ad in there. I just took it out because holy crap. I can't even remember what it was an ad for. Probably Russell brand of some sort. But like, this is the idea that the Russell way. I don't understand that. Like, so I think he's sort of talking about intuition, maybe. Like, sort of intuition where you sort of go, well, I'll just follow my natural impulses. I'll just follow whatever occurs to me at the time, is probably not a good way to behave. Well, it can be useful in some situations. If you're in danger and attacked or something, you want to follow your intuitions and follow that instinctive reactions. Yes, if there is a time constraint, intuition is incredibly useful. But we know that in order to get accuracy, we kind of want to use our type 2 thinking. Intuition's type 1, type 2 is that higher cognition, that being able to reason with ideas. And I think that if the time isn't a constraint, then reasoning with ideas is actually the better way to go. It is the more reliable way to go. Does take more time, does take more effort. But just sort of going, well, I'm going to go along with whatever I feel. That's one of my problems with Taoism. It doesn't actually evaluate anything. And I don't have a problem with Taoism. I just, I think that using it as a way to live, it can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing in the long run. Like, it can make you feel better about the future. But if you're just going with the flow and ignoring any, say, potential consequences down the road of going with that flow, then it can be a problem. And that's why we have certain tools to change the way we intuitively react to certain situations. They exist in psychology.
Cigarettes. I know it's harmful for me, but I know not to do it all day long. I still take pot. Like, I sat up and smoked with Bill Maher. I rarely smoke in public with anybody, but if Bill offers me a joint, I have to take it, because that's a sign of great disrespect not to share a moment with somebody. So I just follow the natural way. I just follow what I know at the end of the day, my intentions are good.
Okay, so yeah, so smoking, it's harmful for you, it's going to harm you, yet you'll still do it. I do know from smoking myself, a lot of the time there was some major rationalizations, like, I just go with the flow, or, it's not going to be that bad, or, I basically saying, hey, I do it for social reasons. It's all of these excuses. No, I did it because I was addicted to it. Like, let's be clear. And people will come up with these major rationalizations for why they smoke and harm their body. Look, I don't really have a problem with it if you want to, whatever. I just know that Going with the flow isn't really a reason for smoking cigarettes. And it's most likely because you're addicted to cigarettes. There's nothing. Cigarettes don't give you anything, right? They don't help you in any way. They don't get you high. They don't alter your brain chemistry in any way. You don't have any experiences. You don't have anything that really helps you. It is just negatives. It's one of those things that you're like, well, why? As somebody who is, cutting themselves, for instance, it's like there's no upside to this. Like there's no benefit you're getting out of it. It's just all negative. And a lot of the time they'll say, "Oh, it makes me look cooler." No, it doesn't. No, makes me look tougher. No, it doesn't. Especially if you consider what it's doing to your lungs and the endurance you would have if called upon to actually be tough. Like this is the whole thing. It's not great for you. And hey, people do it in moderation. Sure, they're welcome to do whatever. But all of these rationalizations that make people think that, oh, I'm not doing it. I could quit anytime I want, but I don't want to. Yeah, bull. It's rough. Quitting is rough. It is a rough thing to do. It's not easy, but that's why we do it. We don't do it because it's easy. We do it because it's good for us. So you'll have a better life without it. And a lot of the people that I meet, they sort of like, I wish I could quit. That's generally what people think, yeah.
I have my lust. I love my lust. And I don't want to lose any of it because I've gone years fighting against my lust. And then I chose to realize I was just fighting against myself. But it's accepting, like Carl Jung said, accepting the dark side of us. That's when we become whole and we can walk in any way. And like I was thinking,
Yeah, so lust and things like that, it's not necessarily a bad thing, just sexual attraction. But when you are doing what Russell Brand is doing, being high on drugs and assaulting women and making the workplace a horrible place to be by what he's doing, that's the problem, right? It isn't the lust, it's your actions based upon it. That's the problem. There's nothing wrong with lust. There's nothing wrong with going up to a woman and asking her out. There's nothing there's nothing no problem with that. But number one, do it outside of a professional setting. If you want to say, hey, do you want to go out after this? I don't see a big problem with it. But if you're going to flirt or something, do it outside of a professional setting. People aren't there to pander to your lust. That's not what they're there for. They're there to work. Behave like a professional. Number two, you can ask somebody out and ask if they're interested, but what Russell Brand is doing is being absolutely a pervy, frigging, sexual assaulting, a horrendous person. Like you can have lust and not act like that. You can have lust and not make somebody uncomfortable. You are in control of your actions. I'm the captain of my own ship.
but what you said about Jesus, you have to think, according to the scriptures, for 30 years,
Yeah. That's a good quote. Mark Twain says, quitting is smoking is easy. I've done it 1,000 times. Yeah, I should say quitting is easy. Making it stick is hard. Like actually keeping to it is hard. I smoked quit for 22 months. Ruined your life? Okay, that's weird. Love to know how that ruined your life. I mean, if you couldn't handle it or you had problems with it, sure, I can understand you're miserable. Hey, I was miserable when I was quitting, but it's what's past that, the life I have after that, which was really good. It's hard to do. And, hey, I was miserable when I was quitting, absolutely miserable. It was worth it, in my opinion.
Jesus knew that he was the Son of God. For 30 years before anyone else was aware. He knew that. And do you think that he had walked on water for the first time at the Sea of Galilee? It was probably something he did when he was 12, 13 years old. There were so many races that he could have won that he chose to allow other people to win because he was a sure foot. But he know that.
What races? Is there something I don't know about the ancient Levant? They were having foot races around Jerusalem or Bethlehem or Nazareth or wherever he was. Is this is this canon? Is this canon that Jesus ran races and let other people win? I don't. Is he talking like metaphorically? Like, he could have succeeded more in life, but he didn't try and let other people win? And how does that tie in with sort of the Christians trying to win? Um, okay. Oh, okay. So Paul's writing, he uses the analogy of athletic races to illustrate the Christian journey and the pursuit of spiritual rewards. Okay. So in First Corinthians, it says, "You know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one wins the prize, don't you? You must run in such a way that you may be victorious." Well, that doesn't really say Jesus like didn't win. Okay. I Apparently Jesus star athlete. Who knew?
They needed to win them. It was only when he was baptized, according to the scriptures, that he remembered the trillions of years that had occurred before him. And that's the reason, perhaps, that he needed to go and fast for 40 days. He didn't say, I'm not going to eat for 40 days. He just remembered his pre human existence. He remembered sending Gabriel forward, when he was talking to Daniel in the lion's den 700 years before. He remembered Gabriel going and talking to Elizabeth and Zachariah and telling them you're going to give birth to John the Baptist. Then he remembered Gabriel going and talking to Mary and Joseph. And guess what? Once he remembered his pre-human existence and the angels came and ministered to him, what angels do you think came and ministered to him? If not Gabriel, who had the assignment from 700 years before, said, I've done just as you've commanded. Not through
Wow.
hardship, not through, I've got to do this job, not through pain. It was, he found joy in what he was doing.
I don't understand the whole point of this. He's basically referring to a story. Is he trying to sort of compare Jesus's sort of thing with his being aware that he was in the womb? Because there's a lot of weird stories from the Bible. There's a lot of strange stories, like that one where John the Baptist jumped for joy in his mother's womb when Mary came near. It's so weird. Like, did the baby just kick? Is that what we're like? It's just so weird. Like, jumped for joy in a womb. Did they have a trampoline in there? What's going on? I don't. It's so strange. Um, and I don't know what point he's getting at, because he just seems to be repeating Bible stories. But he says he doesn't believe in Christianity anymore. He's gone off on his own direction, which is fine. Like, I don't I hate him for it. It's just, yeah, it's kind of weird.
And that's what we do when you're serving the creator, which is ourselves, and all things are the creator. Everything is made in God's image. Because, like, if you look at chlorophyll, the blood of the plants, it has the same chemical organization that our hemoglobin has.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar. Yes, chlorophyll and hemoglobin are very similar. Hang on, I should be able to find a picture of it. They are very similar, but there are some very unique differences. For instance, I believe that, I mean, hemoglobin's based upon on iron, of course, like it's absolutely iron, and chlorophyll is based on magnesium. But there are some very significant differences to it. Hang on, chlorophyll and hemoglobin. So some of the side chains are actually a bit different. I can probably find a picture comparing the two. Um, so, for instance, okay, so you've got magnesium, surrounded by nitrogen atoms, oxygen atoms. The chlorophyll has a extra side chain here, and it also has, like, the hemoglobin has a tail, hydrogen tail, that this one doesn't have. So there are some unique differences, but here's the thing: like, we kind of go, well, yeah, evolutionarily speaking, that would be expected for humans and plants to still have similar structures, and they do. It just, I don't know what the significance he thinks of this is. Now it's interesting because you compare it with fungi, right? Or fungi. That fungus doesn't have anything like this. It is completely different than both. It doesn't have anything like chlorophyll. It doesn't have anything like hemoglobin, right? It is completely separate from both of them. So if everything is God and somehow this similarity is evidence of God, then what, are fungi ungodly? What does that mean? What does it mean that fungus doesn't have the same structure? Is fungus the devil? I don't know what he's saying. I don't think he knows what he's saying. No, plants do not have blood. No, Rembrandt, they don't have blood. They do have chlorophyll, though. That's what carries the energy, or basically it carries the energy from the leaves down to the rest of the plant. So it does have something, right? It does have something. Then the chloroplasts basically use it. So, yeah, I mean, it does have something. It just, there's no blood. Whoops.
Iron in ours as a base with the same carbon, the hydrogen, and nitrogen bonds. And in the chlorophyll, you just have magnesium. In
No,
the same
that isn't the only difference. No, he's completely wrong. That isn't the only difference. Hold on, I'll get the picture up again. I'll get the picture up again. That isn't the only difference, right? And the chlorophyll doesn't have the hydrogen that he said. That's on the hemoglobin, right? The chlorophyll doesn't have that. It's got a different thing. So he's not right about this. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's an amazing similarity, but through evolution, we'd kind of expect that. Like we'd have similar structures. You know, there's no problem with that. I don't know why it's such a big deal. And it's not the same. You know, it's not exact. Just the structure's the same. You know, with the nitrogen and something in the center. It's got a different protein in the center. It's got different side chain protein. It is different. It's not the same as he's saying. You know, the plant chlorophyll has got like 5 oxygen atoms and the hemoglobin has only got 4. Like it's not exactly the same as he's suggesting. And there's some side chains missing off the plant chlorophyll. Like I don't know. No, it is astonishingly similar, but not the way he's suggesting. I'm sorry. And if what he's saying is true, then other living organisms like fungus should have the same structure somewhere, and it doesn't. It completely lacks it. So, yeah.
same exact position with the same benefits. So you think that plants don't dream, don't love, don't hope, don't think, don't lust?
Do plants experience sexual attraction? Probably. Do they dream? I don't think so. Like, again, unfalsifiable things. How do we tell if plants dream? If they think? Like, this depends on what you say is thinking. They definitely can react to things, but nobody thinks they're conscious, that they're aware of themselves. They just seem to react to stimuli, and they'll react exactly the same way every single time. So they're not thinking about it. We don't think they're thinking. So again, I think that sort of the claims that he's making, again, are just things that he can toss out that nobody can disprove. I don't see any reason why a plant would be thinking, at least not in the sense that we think. Wow, okay. Does that mean that, like, he's eating... What does this man eat? Does he eat plants? Are you consuming things that you are sort of think that dream? Wow, all right.
That's why I don't kill plants anymore. I don't give flowers to somebody.
Why? What do you eat? What do you eat, sir? You don't kill plants anymore because they dream. Well, we're pretty sure animals do as well. I mean, I've seen a dog look like it's dreaming, it twitching its legs and looks like it's chasing things. You know, I've seen that. I haven't seen a plant do that, but I've seen a dog. So what does this man eat? If he doesn't eat animals that can, or anything that can think and dream and plants do, does he just eat fungi? Is he on a mushroom diet? What is going on here? This is so baffling. This is so baffling. Like, seriously, how does this man get his information? Wild, wild. Well, I'm not going to do the whole thing, Sir Little Wolf. It's way too long. It's on Rumble. I couldn't, it's just like, oh god. I just wanted to do the sort of short off of YouTube. But I think that
because you're cutting off their genitals. The plant is finally falling in love, getting swole up, ready to mate, and we cut off its damn genitals and like, here, I love you.
Hello there, you're.
Well, that might actually be true. That might actually be true. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Yeah, so I think plants have instincts that you could call sort of reproduction-based instincts. They basically do things, and you might extend that to call sexual attraction, but I'm not sure that can be the case. It's not like a plant is aware of another plant and they go, oh, that plant looks hot, I think I'll do that. No, they just produce stuff. They produce pollen that carries their DNA. Is he a breatharian? I don't know, Jedi. It seems like he must be. Maybe he only eats mushrooms and viruses. I don't know. I have no idea. But if he's not eating things that can think and plants can think, I am struggling to think of what you would be eating. Does he maybe count grains as like, oh, well, they're not plants yet, like, seeds? They're not plants yet, so we can eat them. I have no idea. Crazy, hey? But yeah, so many of this stuff that they talk about is completely unfalsifiable. They are just baseless claims. The idea that plants can think. He isn't actually giving you how he knows this. He's simply making an argument from incredulity, just saying, hey, don't you think they can dream and think and do all these things? They're living things, man. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily entail that they can dream and think and do all the things that animals can. I've got no idea. How does he find this out? Oh, he was in the womb and all of reality was opened for him. Okay. How do we confirm that? How do we know that you've got this, deep insight into the universe, especially when you get basic math wrong? How do we know that? We can't. It's unfalsifiable. It's not even worth considering as the truth. It's like someone tells you that the aliens beamed them up and gave them the knowledge of the universe. Like, how are you supposed to falsify that? Oh, they're gone now. I can't prove it now. The same as this magical carpenter ghost. Oh, we did all of these things in this book. How do we confirm that? How do we falsify that? We can't. They're relying on you not to be able to do it. And every time they've tried, it just comes up with a big zero. So I don't believe it until you can actually point to how we falsify this. Or you can point to some kind of evidence that would suggest that it actually did happen and not just your favorite book. Because that's not enough, especially when that favorite book was written anywhere, from 70 to whatever years after the alleged events happen. Because don't forget, Paul wasn't there. That was, if that's 30 years after, well, he wasn't there. Never claimed to be. He just claimed to talk to exactly 500 people that said that a thing happened. Okay. How do we know he did? We can't know. There's no way to check it. Just can't happen. Anyway, that would look fundamentalist fails. I know they're probably not technically fundamentalists. Fundamentalists do believe in the inerrancy of what they believe. So they may count, right? Like ordinary people will say, hey, this is what I believe. I could be wrong. Happy to be proven wrong if you show me that's wrong. They're not fundamentalists. Fundamentalists are, this is the truth. This is it. There's no way I can be wrong, and in no way can anyone question the inerrancy of what I believe. That's a fundamentalist because they believe they are fundamentally correct on a fundamental level. They're wild. There's no fun in fundamentalist. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, except for grammatically or by spelling. alphabetically. Is that the right word for that? I don't know. But I've actually had fun because these guys, their claims are so wild. I just get blown away. It was definitely a fundamental failure. Yeah, no, I get you, Maya. I get you. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Maybe I should change the name of it. Fundamental failures. Let me know what you think. Throw in the comments. Let me know what you think. If you do have a problem with what I'm doing, or if you do want to like do some kind of hit piece on me before we have a debate, I think that's hilarious. Put it in the comments. Say everything you want. Get it off your chest. I think it's hilarious. I think that you have an opportunity to debate and you're doing a hit piece before. That's just hilarious. Like really, how scared is this man? I just don't know. It's wow. I'm flattered. I'm flattered. But yeah, I'm so glad you all came here. I had a blast actually. I had a really good time. Um, big shout out to everybody. I'm so glad. Big shout out to all of the channel members who joined the live stream yesterday and the ones that missed it. Just everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been Fundamentalist Fails. I'm sure I'll have some more. I'll try to get some pre-subs next time because that's hilarious. I'll try to focus on what I'm currently engaging in, which will be fun. It'll be fun. Trust me, it'll be fun. I hope you've had fun. Do consider giving a like if you've enjoyed your time or if you think I made good points. Hey, if you think I made terrible points, give a dislike. I don't care. Go for it. If you have anything to add, please do put in the comments. I always love to read them. I will try to answer as many as possible. I might not get to all of them, but so much fun. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay beautiful. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.